Hey everybody, we're going to try this again. I think I messed it up just a minute ago. Sorry about that. Turn the comments on. I forgot that I didn't post a link, so it's not like as quick to get everybody in here. But I have missed you guys. I'm glad to be back. It's been a while. It's been a little while. Um, so, anyway, believe it or not, that's the first Mountain Dew I've had in a couple weeks. Maybe a week. Let's be honest. Hey, crafty librarian. Hey, Inez. So I hope everybody's been doing well. I know we've had a few losses in our community. Hey, Joanne. Hey, Cheryl, all the way from New Zealand. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Linda. I went to a wedding yesterday, and to begin with, it was a beautiful wedding. It was a really sweet outdoor wedding, and it was some. It was one of Everett's best friends, and they got married outside, and all the leaves were falling because it's fall here, and so all the leaves were falling around, and it was just so beautiful. It was really, really pretty. So it was great. Oh, but the reason I bring that up is because they're going to New Zealand for a couple of weeks on their honeymoon, and then they're going to Tahiti. so, um, so it should be a lot of fun. Hey, Melanie. Hey, Susan. Hey, Janice. Hey, Privies and Prims, Needlecrafts. Hey, Marlene. Wow, Marlene, it's good to see you online. Um, oh, and Herschel's down here somewhere. I hear him doing something. He's trapped in here because I had to close the door, so he can't be running in and out. He's doing something bad. Hey, Ann. What's the weather like in Oklahoma? Is it cold up there? Um, it's cooler here today. Yesterday it was like 78 degrees. Today was a little cooler. Hey, Patty. It's supposed to be getting cooler this week though. We haven't turned our heat on yet. And I've been holding out cuz stuff's getting so expensive. And he's going to distract me with all that noise he's making. And I'm starting to understand why my dad turned the heat down every night when I was a kid. I used to complain about that like crazy because it was so cold. And I just remember getting up, and I used to have this little strawberry shortcake flannel gown. I don't know if you remember strawberry shortcake. And we had oil heat, so it was really warm when it came out of the vent. And I would go put my gown like up and over the vent and sit on the vent. And I look like a little cupcake, trying to get warm in the morning. Hey, Ann. 89 yesterday. Wow. Wow. Massachusetts. Yay. Hey, Karen. 54. Wow, I know. Heat on lots of times. Yeah, I don't like being cold either. Hey, Ann, 27 on Wednesday. It's going to get cold here pretty quick. I have to admit, I'm not excited. I don't like the cold. I really love the fall, and we've had a really beautiful fall this year, so I'm surprised. But usually I feel like lately, since I've been back home, that fall has been like one day. And it's gone from, basically summer to winter. And sometimes spring is the same. Hello, little buddy. You want to say hey? Don't step on any keys. Here, let me help you. Say hello. He has a little eye issue right now, so he's a winky baby. He's a little winky. There's nothing really wrong with it. He went to the vet last week, and we think it's stress induced, which is not good. So I have actually been putting medicine in his eye. Imagine that. A cat. And I've been putting the ointment on my finger and popping it right in his eye, on his eyeball, not the fur around the eye. So, but yeah, they took a good look at it, and there's nothing wrong with it. But since he got that cold from Marmal, I guess back in the late spring, early summer, he's had a little bit of drainage in that eye, and he's been favoring it. And sometimes it's fine, but the vet says that she thinks that it's consistent with a stress reaction. So, because I was gone for the weekend last weekend. I think it was last weekend. Somewhere recently. I've been gone a couple times. Cool in the morning and hot in the afternoon. um, so yeah, he's got pretty bad separation anxiety. Not anxiety, I guess. He just misses me, and I can kind of see it. He had a rough life the first year. Everett said the first night that I was gone. This is when I went to Winterthur. He said the first night, Herschel just stayed up super late waiting for me to come home and didn't come to bed until way in the middle of the night. And he usually runs in there and goes to bed right away. And he said the second night he just walked around the house crying. You know how they'll do? They're looking for you, and so they make these little noises, thinking that you'll holler back. He had the heat on in North Central West Virginia. Yeah. Um, you know, I don't know. It's gonna be cold soon down here too. The air conditioning's still on. Yep. We've had the air on in the car, not the house. I don't think we've had it on in the house. Hey Carolyn. So, anyway, fun stuff there. Just trying to get through the weather. So, yeah, Herschel's fine. He's just, I don't know what we're gonna do when I go back to work in the shop. I don't know. I can't really take him in there because I'm afraid he'll run outside, and other people have allergies to cats, including myself. So I don't know. It may just be a rude awakening for Mr. Herschel to not, you know, be by my side all day 24/7. That's the downside to the pandemic. The upside was that you could get a new pet and you could acclimate them. The downside is that you acclimated them to you being there the whole time. So, hey, Paula. Um, so I learned something really interesting at Winterthur. And first of all, I will say that it was a fabulous set of lectures. And it is a little more academic, like it's not a let's go stitch kind of thing. It really is, they bring in different people and academia on different topics. And sometimes, well, in fact, several times, they're not really stitchers, but they're somewhere on the periphery. They'll have an office, you could say, and I do. But I don't know if he'll stay in it. That's the thing, because if I'm not in there, he's going to want to be with me. So that's going to be the same thing. So I don't know what we're going to do with him. We'll have to figure it out. Um, and so there were a whole series of lecturers. One of them was the woman that wrote the book Mend, Mend. And it was a really good exposure to some topics and about mending clothes and the waste that comes from the fashion industry and repair and reuse kind of thing. And that was very interesting. There was another woman there who did a lecture on samplers from Black girls, the African American community or African community, depending on where the samplers came from. And that was pretty neat because I have a friend that owns a Sierra Leone sampler that was stitched by a freed um, black girl who was a slave. And I think they were ran by a missionary group, and they gave the samplers as gifts. And so, just the context, putting the context around the samplers and stuff was interesting. The one thing I took away from that was very striking to me um, was that the samplers that were stitched by the young black girls and young women all depicted Euro-Caucasian faces. And that hurt my feelings a little bit because not only, it just bothered me that they weren't able to stitch their own likeness. You know what I mean? And those samplers weren't being given to people who, I don't know, because there were some schoolgirl samplers. There were actually schools for freed black people. And one of the things that they learned was, embroidery, just like the young white girls did. And it bothered me a little bit, though, that they did not stitch in their own likeness. And I don't know if that's because they just didn't have the patterns or what the drive behind that was. Could be that they didn't have the patterns. Um, I don't know. So that's interesting to me. So I'm probably going to get the book that the girl is writing and read that. Actually, I think she was still doing her thesis, but I think she had written a book. She was a student. So they had like professional academians. Ac- oh, academians is not the right word. I don't know. Maybe it is. Can't think right now. People already in their profession, and then they had students who were going through their master's program at like University of Pennsylvania or whatever, and they were doing something with Winterthur. And so these were some of their senior studies and their theses that they were sharing. And that was really, really interesting because a couple of them did restorations. And so you got to see all the steps of the restorations and the conservation. Um, so all those things said, it's a myriad of topics. It's not just one topic. There's always a theme. Like this one was called The Needle's Eye, and it was the letter I. And they were using the I to stand for identity. And then they kind of segued over into, you know, the identity of the needleworker or the identity of the needlework. And they always have a really neat exhibition there for the conference. And the conference is every 2 years. This year, and when they did it 2 years ago, they did virtual opportunities. And so I would certainly encourage you to kind of keep your eye out for it for 2 years from now. And, you know, although you may not be able to attend in person, you could attend virtually. I don't know if anybody on here did. Thank you, Frederica. Um, hey, Sheila and Mary and Catherine. So you know, it's a lot of different interesting topics. And of course, they do a few little classes. Like one of them was a tour um of the museum, and they take you, if you get the right tour guide, they'll show you some really neat things in the vaults that needlework that doesn't always get out, and they will highlight the needlework for you and tell you the stories behind it. So the house itself, Winterthur, is a huge mansion that was owned by the DuPont family, and they actually lived in the house. And DuPont was a collector of all kinds of things, almost all American things though. And so they have a lot of needlework there. They also have a lot of other antiques. It's amazing. And so at one point they moved out of the big house and moved to a small cottage, which is now a gift shop. And they had the house set up as a museum. And so it is a really neat place to go through. They have a really excellent conservation group there. And so one of the things I did this time was the conservation workshop. And I did not do it when I was there 4 years ago, but I think it was closed or something. I didn't sign up early enough, but I didn't get in there. And so this time I did because I wanted to learn. And I haven't had a chance to read this book yet, but two of the guys that gave our tour wrote this book, Caring for Your Cherished Objects. And if you go onto the Winterthur website, you can probably order this book. It's brand new. It literally just got published like the week before we got there. Um, and it has some great information, and I've not had a chance to read it yet. But I mean, I learned so much just from the, 1 hour talk that I'm really interested in reading the book. I will tell you one thing that I learned that I did not expect to hear, that I thought I would share with you. And this was something that the lead conservationist told us at the end of the class, was that she said, there's a misnomer out there that textiles need to breathe. Textiles don't need to breathe. Oxygen is actually, I forget the word she used. It was something like degenerative or something, to textiles. And she said, the issue is not that they need to breathe, is that they need to be inside something. If you're going to put it in plastic, something that's not going to off gas. And so, yeah, Charlotte, I am looking forward to going back and listening to them too. Again, so they recorded them, and you can go back in there and listen to them. I think they said it would take a few weeks to get the recordings out there. Um, but that kind of blew my mind. And I actually stayed a little bit later after folks had, kind of walked out of the room, because we were going to another part of the conservation workshop. And I said, I have never heard that. I said, I've always heard the opposite of that, is that textiles need to breathe. And you can't put them in plastic unless you put a hole in it, and they can get air. And she goes, yeah, I know. She goes, that's what everybody thinks. She goes, that's just not the truth, Oxygen and, different things in the air, they, are not great for your textiles. She said, but, you do have to put them in something that's not harmful. And so, they showed like bugs and stuff, which sounds gross, but it was really interesting because it's bugs that are really minute that you don't really see. And one of them was called a carpet beetle. And I guess they can get in anywhere. They can come in on your clothes or whatever, but a lot of houses have them. They like wool, and they'll eat wool. And that's why they're called a carpet beetle, because when all carpets were made of wool, they would get in there and eat the wool. And also moths. And the other thing that I learned is that it's not the adult bug that does the damage, it's the larvae. And so it's the juvenile bug. And it just made me petrified. I just wanted to come home and just like completely gut my house and, clean it and get every little crack and corner and, and it needs it. Let me tell you. Hey, Rose, you're not late. You're just on time. Um, so that kind of, that was kind of a, as we'd say down south, a come to Jesus meeting about, wow, it really matters, like your level of cleanliness and stuff. Cause I just, things get dusty, you clean them up, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, wow, and they talked about how thorough they were with, their housekeeping and their cleaning and what they did and how they tried to, look for bugs. And because with all the people coming in, you're going to get bugs in there and different times of the year, you get different kind of bugs and all that stuff. And so anyway, I took that to heart and I came home and I started going through some of my older stash that had just been packed up, things that I hadn't looked at for a while that were packed up when I moved back home, like in 2017. Actually, my stuff came in 2015, and I didn't get back here until 2017. And I started going through some of these things that, were just here and there. They were in boxes mostly. I even had a brand new kit that I had bought there 4 years ago to make kind of an embroidered. Yeah, I'm going to get to that, Catherine. That's exactly what I learned there too. Um, Kind of an embroidered little casket, a box. And if you hear me say the word casket, I'm always talking about, I would say 99.99% of the time, I'm going to be talking about a box, a needlework box, because that's really what a casket is. It's a wooden box that, um, for various uses. But in the needlework world, and they were covered in the 1700s with paper and fabric and, beautiful examples in some museums. So this was basically a fabric casket, not made out of wood, fabric box. And anyway, so I opened that kit up, which had never been opened, but it also, neither was it sealed in anything. And there was silk in there. The silk was fine. There was, cardboard in there. It was fine. There was all kinds of stuff in there. There were two pieces of like laser cut or die cut, kind of like batting in the shape of the house. Those had moth damage and they had little moth, bits in there. And I was like, you know? And so, and then I find another piece of wool that was upstairs in my stash. And my personal stuff is up in the loft. And most of it, again, has not really been unpacked. And I found another piece of wool up there that was just a little small piece of wool. And it had some moth damage. Now, granted, that's two things out of everything else I had up there that didn't have anything wrong with it. And not that I've gotten through everything, but I took a good poke around. And so I was kind of bummed out. So I've learned a lesson, I had to throw one of those little pieces of wool away. I didn't throw the house stuff away because I could kind of scrape it out what was there and I can still use it because it goes on the inside. But the other piece of wool that I would have used for finishing, I threw away. And I didn't just throw it away. I took it outside, throw away, So here's what I did with the stuff that I did find the damage in. And this, I think, Catherine, is where you were going with that. This is one of the things I learned from them. I took those two pieces of batting that had some wool content that had the damage, and I got all the crustiness off, cleaned it off, and I put them in a Ziploc bag and I put them in my freezer. And they're going to stay in there for 2 weeks. So they've got another week. Tomorrow, I think, will be a week. And, tomorrow will be a week. And they've got another week after that. Then I'm going to take them out, leave them in the sealed bag for 2 weeks and see what happens. And if anything hatches out, I'm going to put it back in the freezer for another 2 weeks. And that will kill the larvae. That'll kill the hatchlings. And if nothing else happens, that means there was no other eggs or anything laid on that wool. There's no other bugs on there. It's fine to use. And so I'll take it out and I'll be able to use it. And that's what they said they did. So when they get a textile, they said they put it in there. They've got this freezer that goes really, really, really cold. Colder than any home freezer would do. And I forget what she said it was, but it was pretty cold. It was way below zero. And they leave it in there. I forget how long they said. And they kind of do that same process. They take it out, nothing happens, then they're good. And if something happens with it over the next week or two, they put it back in and kill everything. They just have to leave it in a lot less time than what we would have to leave it in at home. So there's one takeaway for you from Winterthur. If you have wool that's damaged, or if you buy a piece of wool from, like, Goodwill or something, and you're going to use it for something, or let's say you buy an old sampler, and that's another place you get a lot of bugs in. You have to open those up, and see what's in there sometimes. But let's say you get an old sampler and you're just not sure if you're seeing any pest issues with it. You can put it in something airtight, either a giant Ziploc or, plastic container, and put it in your freezer for 2 weeks. Take it out, leave it in that container sealed, see if anything happens. And then, if you see anything, you can put it back in there. Otherwise, you probably are good. So, definitely do your research. Winterthur's got a website where you can go on there, and I think they've got a lot of stuff detailed on there. So go check out their website. And this is how it's spelled: WINTERTHUR. And they have like a conservation part of their museum, but they have a little website where you can look some of that stuff up. You can also go out and order this book from them. Not that I guess I am trying to help them. I mean, they're a great museum, but I'm looking forward to really getting into this and reading it because, it's already helped me. But the whole plastic thing, so I asked her more about that, and she said, yeah, it's not, or textiles that need to breathe. Textiles don't really need to breathe. There's a lot of toxins that get into textiles from the air around them. But, if you are going to put them in plastic, it needs to be plastic that's not going to put off gases. Like, Ziploc bags are a terrible thing. So you don't want to keep them in Ziploc bags. And I can tell you from experience that a lot of Ziploc bags, I've had some old Ziplocs that just crumble. They change texture over time. And so because a piece of flexible plastic is made with petroleum. And over time it lets off I'm not a chemist. Over time it lets off its stuff, and it gets brittle and it breaks down. And so while it's letting off its stuff, that stuff is getting into your textiles and not helping them. It's hurting them. So Ziplocs are not a great place to leave your textiles. So when you get a new piece of linen from us, from whoever else, we send it in Ziplocs to keep it dry, because we know that crazy things happen in the mail. And you can store them in there for a little while. I'm not saying you can't keep them in there for, 6 months or whatever, a year. But, if it's a cherished item, like something from your family or something that you've made, don't store it in a Ziploc. That is a terrible idea. Like quilts or something else. And now that I'm saying that, I think I've got a quilt upstairs in a plastic bag that I need to take out. But she did say that plastic containers, like they use Sterilite, I think is what it's called. And I know I've got some around here. We use a lot of these. These are Hefties. I think they're also okay. But there's one called, I think it's called Sterilite or something like that. It's a little bit less expensive than these Hefties. They were actually using them for storage there. And she said that they are chemically made not to off-put gas. Pillowcases is a great thing. And that was the other thing. Okay, yeah, Barbara, tell us, because you're the expert on that. When you get an antique that might have bugs or mold, you keep the sampler in the freezer for at least a month or more. So Barbara is an expert on that. And that's what you should do. I'm not good at that. but I don't think I've had any with bugs that I know about. But I've probably been more careless on that than I should be. So, take Barbara's advice. If you get something you're worried about, like she said, bugs or mold, put it in the freezer for several weeks, a month, maybe more. Just make sure that all that stuff is dead in it. Home storage containers. So there are plastic containers that are okay. I'll figure it out for you. I will let you know. But you can go out and do some of that research. I'm sure this book will tell you. I'm sure Winterthur will tell you on their website. Now, the other thing that I decided to do, well, I already had like an archival box. And let me tell you where I learned that from my friend Barbara Hudson. So when I went to visit Barbara, um, it's probably been almost a year ago. It was like being in heaven, right? You got all these beautiful samplers, and she's so nice, and so is her husband. It was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. But she showed me her antiques, and they were all in these archival boxes. And I thought, I can do that because I've had mine in these fabric rolls. And somebody in my group asked about the fabric rolls, and they said that was okay. They said it's better if you've got, you know, muslin, cotton muslin that you know doesn't have any additives in it, no starch or anything, because starch will attract the bugs. And sizing, and there's starch and sizing in samplers too. And so that's why you have to be careful of the bugs, because they will sometimes eat away the fabric and the thread is still there. Like there's lots of examples on samplers where you'll see that the bugs have eaten the fabric underneath and the sampler, the threads are still there. Or they found one particular thread that they loved and they ate all the particular thread. And it could be a content, something that thread had in it. I don't know. I mean, um, so you just kind of have to think about those things, think about them. It's not just light. One of the other things that we talked about and looked at was light and how damaging light is. And I know that light is very damaging, and you guys probably know that too for your textiles, but um, light is extremely damaging and it's a lot quicker than you think it is. We had, yeah, acid free tissue and acid free boxes. That's where I was going, Candy. I got myself distracted. We had some things in the window at the shop that changed their total color makeup within about, I want to say, like 6 weeks. And it was pretty extreme light coming in there in the morning for a couple hours. It was just full on light. But it really damaged some silks that we had. Um, Light is extremely damaging. And just to point out the whole thing about plastic, I was going to write a note on a whiteboard upstairs, and there were some little whiteboard markers that were hanging on a magnet on the whiteboard. And the whiteboard happens to be, and it was here before I got here, my husband put it up. It happens to have a little window over on the other wall, and I guess at a certain time of the day, light comes through that window really hard. And I grabbed one of those little mini markers, and it fell apart in my hand. The plastic did. I was left holding the ink thing, which was also dried up, so it didn't matter. And they were not that old. They're probably maybe 5 years old if they were that old. I doubt they were that old. They're probably newer than that. I probably put them up there. So they're probably newer than that. They're probably more like 3 years old. And they just completely fell apart. All of them did. I tried all of them, and they all did that, and I threw them all away. So, I think there are containers that are good and containers that are bad. So when I came home, I had an acid-free box because I'd learned that from Barbara, and I had ordered it, but I had not put my samplers in it. And so I sat down one day last week, and all the ones that were kind of out and about and in these fabric rolls, I put into the acid-free archival box with acid-free tissue. And I asked them about acid-free tissue because they used a lot of acid-free tissue. And at a certain point in time, acid free tissue kind of loses its acid freeness, for lack of a better word, and you have to change it out. And so the other thing that they use is a muslin, just a cotton muslin, 100% cotton muslin that doesn't have any detergent or anything in it. And so at some point, I'm probably going to get some of that and use that for some things too. I think the acid free tissue is fine, but muslin actually makes me feel even better for some of these things because it's a natural fabric. And I had some things on linen, stored with, a piece of linen just to keep them kind of clean and stuff. And I'm not so sure that was the best idea either over a really long term, because the linen that we have now has a lot of dyes and stuff in it. So I just don't know. I don't know. I guess there's no way to win that war, but you put your cutting boards out in the sun to bleach them, and yes, it works, and it only takes a couple hours, yeah. So, yeah, Rita, acid-free is really the key. Acid-free, tissue paper, muslin that doesn't have any additives in it. Um, and muslin is just a kind of a thin fabric. Or a really good plastic container, one that you know isn't going to be putting off, gases. So I think the key to that is the quality of it. So I think those Sterilites are good. I think I've got some other ones here that are good. That are good for that. Probably need to do a little more research on that. So rambled all over the place with that, but I guess, yeah. So Kathy is telling us you can get muslin from the quilt store and then run it through the washer, yeah, which is what I plan on doing with that. Um, so word to the wise, just think about it, and if you really are collecting things or you have things that have been handed down to you, go out and check out their website at a minimum and think about what you might want to do differently. Not that it has to all be in the extreme, but any little thing you do can help. So Rita is asking me the name of this book. It's called Caring for Your Cherished Objects, and it is brand new at Winterthur. But you can probably, I don't, they were trying to get their online ordering back up. It has been down since the pandemic. They were hoping to get it back up soon, but if they don't have it up, you can call the bookstore and order this book. You cut up a cereal box to make thread wraps, and somebody told you not to do that. You're just wrapping floss on them. It depends on how quick you're going to use that floss. I don't think it's going to, over, a 6-month period of time or even a year, it's probably not going to hurt them. But if you were like me and you had your floss on there for 25 years, because I actually do have some that have been on the same bobbins for 25 years, might do something to them. I don't know. If you're going to use that floss in a pretty quick time, I wouldn't worry too much about it, privies and prims. If you think it might sit on there for 15 years or so, then I'd worry about it. Having said that, floss is not crazy expensive. So, and floss is easy to tell if it's bad, because if you start to try to use floss, just give it a quick tug, and if it breaks, don't use it. It's done. If you're using it and it just won't cooperate at all, it's just shredding or, don't use it. Sometimes even brand new floss will feel dry. It'll come to you dry. And you can use a thread conditioner. You can use thread conditioner. You can use natural beeswax. And natural beeswax, a very pure beeswax, has been used longer than we can even probably contemplate. So you could definitely use beeswax safely. A pure beeswax, a good waxer, without worrying about it damaging anything. And that will give you some, I forget the name of the word I'm trying to think of, but when your thread actually, can move in your hand again, it's not brittle and dry. Think about the wooden hope chest that those pioneers preserved their quilts and samplers in. Was the worst thing to do. Yeah. And so we talked about cedar too. And, while I was there, and they said, cedar, the smell of cedar is a natural repellent, and it does keep moths away. The problem is that just the cedar itself doesn't keep the moths away. So when it loses its smell, it's not going to keep the moths away. And so, look, we have a cedar closet upstairs. It doesn't smell like cedar anymore. We'd have to go in there with a sander and refresh it, and then it would keep the moths away, And so, and I have a hope chest. It's a cedar hope chest. I don't think it's keeping any moths away at this point, but and somebody brought up mothballs, and they mothballs are terrible. So do the whole wide world a favor and don't use mothballs. They're really toxic, not just to the moths. So that really horrible smell that they put out is because it has some horrible things in it. So, but the conservators there talked about getting in. They said they had never gotten a military uniform that didn't have a mothball smell. And so, but also had damage, so, it clearly had been in the mothballs, and it clearly still had damage. So, I mean, you can't win every battle, but, if it's important to you, you can fight the good fight. I guess that's what I would say. And so I definitely changed the way I do some things, and, all my samplers that were out and about, freewheeling are now in that archival box with acid-free tissue. And I do thank Barbara for that. She taught me that. I just didn't execute on it. So, and I only have one box. It's a big box. And they're all samplers, so I don't have to worry about supporting weight. And we did learn some things too about how to support weight. Like if you had something that um, had an indentation in it or something where it needed support, there were some tricks of the trade to put it in an archival box and support the weight. And they made a little compartment underneath the box if they took something out of the frame and put the original frame underneath it with it, so that it was still there together. So, yeah, mothballs have a horrendous smell. I will admit, in my lifetime, I have used them, but I regretted it. It stank up everything. I hated those things. I don't think I have anything with that in it now, but I probably still have some stuff with that smell. So anyway, those are the things I learned. I won't belabor you with a bunch of it anymore, but, um, you know, it's worth poking around at and thinking about and, doing some things different. I think the biggest takeaway from this conversation is probably what Barbara said she does with her samplers is that when she gets one in that she's worried about um, mold or bugs, she puts it in her freezer for like a month. And I would encourage you to do that as well. Put it inside something so that it's not going to get wet or anything, but you want to kill the bugs. Um, I can't read what you just said. I use them in the ground to kill in the groundhog holes. We have so many groundhogs around here, Barbara. I mean, and they act like they own this world. I mean, they walk around like they are king of the world. They really do. And they're huge here. They're huge, monster beast. Um, you know, I don't know. You'll see them at the Baird House, I'm sure, if you're there at the right time of day when we do get open, which we're not open yet, by the way. But we're getting ever closer. So, um, they just walk out and lay in the driveway there. They walk across the road like they're not on a 4-lane highway. They don't care. It's just insane. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they're eating stuff too, but I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to switch topics a little bit, but I do want to say that we did lose one of our stitching sisters about a week ago, Angela Little Hamilton. And she was a wonderful person. She came to the shop a number of times, and she's part of the Georgia Sampler Guild. And her good friends and her sister are also in our stitching family. And she left a big hole. A funny person, always smiling. I can just see her like she was standing in front of me, and I didn't even know her that well, but that's the kind of presence that she had. So I think her services were yesterday, and we just want to, you know, keep her family and friends in mind. And there are probably some of her friends on this thing tonight. So um, I know that you have lost someone because she was just a neat person. I really liked her a lot. So, and then Charlotte Hanson had to put her sweet little dog down, Isabel. And Charlotte is a really neat person. I don't know if you've ever met Charlotte, but she came down to one of our retreats, and she was just a lot of fun. And boy, she loved her little dachshund. I mean, loved, loved, loved. And myself, having lost a couple pets in the last year, know how bad that hurts. And so Charlotte, we love you, and we know you're hurting over that. That was yesterday, I believe. And so she's working her way through that too. So, and I know we've all lost people and friends and pets and all kinds of things, but you know, it's never easy. And our stitching family these days is some of our closest friends, and so we just want to support each other with that. But I just wanted to put that out there. So what have I been doing? I don't know. I feel like I just haven't stopped. But I don't know if I have anything to show for it. I feel like I do, but then I don't. I don't know. It's crazy. Um, the other thing I did besides Winterthur is I went to a Jackie Duplessis class. And I have to tell you a really funny story. I think I might have told you before, and I haven't put the video up yet. So if those of you who did give me a deposit and are registered for Jackie's classes in March, I got the final kit cost just a couple days ago. And so I'm going to be communicating with you this week, maybe tomorrow, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. But you're going to hear from me this week, and we're going to, figure out if those class prices are good for you, and then we're going to get you moving with the payment plan or whatever and confirm that reservation for you. Some spots will probably open up because life happens. And so we will, I will let you know when they do. And we'll get them filled. And then I did mention to you before that we're doing something really cool on that Saturday that she's here. It's a make and take, and they're really inexpensive, relatively speaking. And so if you're local and you can come to the make and take, you should do that. And we'll be giving out more information as to what the kits are. But really for that, you just have to sign up for a time slot, and then you can pick which kit you want to do when you get there. And, you're basically just reserving your time slot. And then when you get there, you can pay for the kit that you want to do, and you can sit in the room and do it with her in there. And there should be about 4 of those. And the event is called March to Sassy's. So now that I have the final kit prices, I'll be posting more information out there. It's called March to Sassy's, and it has an acorn theme. I'm really shocked about that. So there's that. So I wanted to show you, oh shoot, I think I brought the wrong project down here. I did, so I can't show you that. I was going to show you the couple little projects I worked on there. I brought the wrong one down, and I've showed it to you before. You don't want to see it again. So let me show you something else. I don't think I've shown you this before. This is an Ackworth sampler that came from the collection of I'm having trouble now with the names. It's got all kinds of little numbers and tags on it. Somebody help me. In the UK, they just sold, there was an auction 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, with all of their stuff. I know his name is Michael. And I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. It's just because I'm just am. I know you know who I'm talking about. I've gone to their home a few times. One of you is going to tell me. Well, this is an Ackworth from their collection. Feller. Thank you, Barbara. How can I forget that name? This is a little Quaker sampler from their collection that I bought in the auction. And, of course, it has a little squirrel on it, and it's a little bitty baby. And I just thought you might like looking at it, and we will definitely reproduce it for you. But it's Margaret Binion, and it's actually featured in one of their 2 books. So when we publish the magazine, if they give me permission, and I'm sure they will, the magazine, the booklet, we will use what they've researched for it. So they're really gracious people, really fantastic. They were fun to meet. A great host, an incredible collection. And so I thought you might enjoy seeing this. The Winterthur book is on Amazon for $24.95. Okay, Rita, that's probably not a bad price. That's what I paid for it, $24.95. So it's not a bad price. So this says, be mine to live in private bliss, safe and secure in some recess, since faction and high-minded strife but shake the peaceful lake of life, for better is the little home where Confucius it looks like safety, where Confucius, not Confucius. How many of you are laughing at me right now? Come on, Barbara. I know you were laughing at me. Where conscience safely cheers the dome. Confucius. I don't think they would have been right about Confucius. And it's Margaret Binion, 1789. So, Be mine to live in private bliss, safe and secure in some recess, since faction and high-minded strife, but shake the peaceful lake of life, for better is the little home, where conscience safely cheers the dome. The problem is that the S's are stitched like little F's. So you can see how I might have got Confucius there from conscious. So anyway, it's a pretty little Ackworth, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. And it's been conserved. And so, if you're actually, it's probably in, I don't think that's an original frame. But it's a nice old looking frame, but I don't think it's an original frame given its date. But you can look on the back and you can see it's got True View glass. That's conservation glass. And that's, if you've got something really important to you, needlework wise, it's a lot more expensive to put it in conservation glass, or a lot of places it's called True View, or it's basically, it keeps 99% of the UV light rays out. If you're going to have it in a room where you want to look at it on a regular basis, then this glass is important. Now, even with that glass, I've got samplers that I keep in my bedroom, which the lights don't go on very often full unless I'm cleaning in there. I'm one of those people that really believes that, and my bedroom's it's not small, but it's not huge. It's not big enough for a sitting room. And so I believe you should sleep in there, and you shouldn't lay around in there doing everything in there. There's a little fireplace in there, and if I could fit a little chair in there, I probably would sit in front of that fireplace in the winter. But unless I'm sick or something, I'm only in there to sleep, really, or get dressed and change clothes and stuff. But I kind of do my mirror thing in the bathroom, and that's where I put the lights on high. All this to say that I keep some samplers in there that are really important to me, in very muted light. Not a lot of light gets in there. And so if you've got something that's really old that you're worried about, you can keep it in there in a room that's dimly lit and that doesn't get a lot of bright light, because fluorescent lights, light's pretty damaging no matter what kind of light. So when they did their conservation thing there, they actually, even on the LED lights, which are better than most lights, they put filters on them to block some of the light too. I mentioned that I would get in contact with you. Okay, Alice, I'm not sure you want it. Okay, I got you, Candy. All right. Okay, I can do that. Sorry, Candy, I probably just forgot. So, light is also very important. And I'm sorry if I missed you guys' other comments here. I've just been kind of talking. One other question I want to ask you about is Halloween Stitch. So, you guys asked me about Halloween Stitch, and we kind of canceled our plans to have a class here. But a couple of folks asked me, and I don't know if it was in the soiree or if it was here, if we could do a stitch in. And my question for you is do you want it to be on, and it's just going to be a Zoom stitch. So just a Zoom stitch. Do you want it to be on actual Halloween, or would you like it to be like, the weekend before? And that'll help me plan that, because I think our original workshop that we were going to do was planned like the weekend before. But since we're just doing a Zoom stitch, you might want to do it on Halloween night. That might be fun. So let me know about that. And good night, Barbara. I'm glad you were on here. Thank you for dialing in. So let me know about that. You can put it in the comments. You can send me a note either way. Any other questions or anything? I have been stitching a lot. I have finished a few things. So I went to Friend Stitch yesterday. Did any of you guys do Friend Stitch? Halloween would be fun. Yeah, I think it'd be fun too, Mary. Did anybody do Friend Stitch? It was a virtual retreat. I did that yesterday, and I thought it was pretty fun. I did open my box because I wasn't really paying attention and didn't know I wasn't supposed to. So I opened my box and went through it before the class. But I finished my little bird. That was the little stitch, and I up for either. Okay, and I finished it really quick. It was a really easy stitch, and I've got to do their finishing, but yeah, it was fun. I thought it was fun. So yeah, you liked it too, Melanie. Good, good. Um, I don't know if I'm gonna do the pin thing on the ruching though. I might use the ribbon, but I might do it different. But I like the little board that they gave in there. I thought that was pretty neat. So I'm excited about that. Um, yeah, so it looks like votes are doesn't matter or Halloween. So yeah, so let me know. The Noel ornament. Yeah, I didn't start that yet. Um, but yeah, they gave some good stuff in there. I thought it was fun. I thought it was neat, and I thought it was neat to see Cottage Garden threads and to see their facility and what they were doing. That was pretty neat. So it was a fun event. I saw Salty Yarns on there too, so I think it was well attended. And they did say hundreds of people. I was originally signed up for the afternoon, but then had to switch to the morning. It looks like my feed is getting slow for some reason. Um, Sorry about that for having trouble on here. Um, hmm. Hopefully you guys aren't seeing that stuttering that I'm seeing. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed it. And that I'm sure it'll be fun next year too. So Patty learned a lot while visiting your daughter in Eastern Europe. A needlework school in her town was active to 1905. That's kind of neat. That's pretty neat. Pretty interesting. Am I kind of breaking up for you guys? Because I am on my own screen. So I don't know if it looks that way to you or not. But must be something going on with our Wi-Fi here. So I'm going to give some quick things away. And I do have the winners for the last time, but since I'm having trouble with my screen, I'll just go back and post on your comments. Yeah, I'm lagging a bit. So it has to be something here. So I don't want you guys to have to live through that. So I'm going to do a few giveaways for tonight. This is a Eat Sleep Stitch shirt. It's a large. And it is brand new. Never been unrolled. And it needs a new home. And it's black. So it would be great for Halloween. For your Halloween stitch. So this is going to be Sleep. Sleep. And I will... I'll put it in the description, just in case you can't figure out what I'm saying here. This is a kit for Owl Forest Embroidery, and I can't pronounce the name, but I really liked it because it has a cool tree with an owl in the middle and a black cat. It came from Russia. I know I'll never get it stitched. I love their kits, though. They've got some really nice kits. They have... really beautiful packaging for their threads. It has linen. And then the pattern. And it even has a little needle binder in it. So, if you want this, the word is owl. I don't know if that'll come through or not. Owl. And then I've got two charts. Both of them are from Summer House Stitch Works. And I bought them at the Prim Stitcher Society retreat probably 4 years ago. It's been a while. They're really sweet, but I know I won't get them stitched. And so this one is called Prim Tapestry. And it's the full kit. It's got the thread and the backing and the linen. So for this one, let's just call it, let's use the word Prim. P-R-I-M, Prim. And that's for the Prim Tapestry. And you can change the PSS. If you don't want to put Prim Stitcher Society, you can put your initials or whatever in there. It even has the star for it. And this one is really pretty. This is a Prim non-patch. And so she made it into a little pillow, and it includes all the stuff in it. The threads and the linen. It's already got the little non-patch in there. So for this one, let's use the word non. So we've got Sleep, Prim, non, And the other one was owl. Okay. So I rambled a lot tonight. I hope that it was helpful to you. I will see you back next Sunday night. I'm sorry I missed a couple, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it was. There was soiree, and then, oh, I was just run to death. So I thank you for coming back. I appreciate you coming back. And I'll go through and look at the comments. I know you guys have asked me some questions that I missed, and I'll get those taken care of. And Candy, I will give you a call tomorrow, and we'll get you settled. And I hope you guys all have a really good week. And thank you for dialing in, and thank you for being so supportive. I did have one more thing, but I'll do it next time. But it's something already stitched, and you just need to put it together. So that'll be next time. So, all right. Have a great week, and thank you for joining. Bye.